As part of the BikeRadar Women's Road Bike of the Year Awards, we tested 7 bikes in this price category. Those bikes were the Fuji Supreme 2.3, the Scott Contessa Solace 25, the Specialized Ruby Comp, the Canyon Ultimate CF SL 9.0 WMN, the Cannondale Super 6 Evo, the Norco Valence C-Disc 105, and the Bianchi Intenso D 105. As well as being tested by BikeRadar staff, each of these 7 bikes was also tested by a reader panel of BikeRadar women readers, so we've whittled the 7 down to the top 5. First up, we've got the Scott Contessa Solace 25. Contessa is the name for Scott's range of women-specific bicycles, and the Solace 25 is a bike designed around endurance geometry. Because it's women-specific, in this case it means it's got a slightly shorter reach and a more upright position, although our testers found in this case the position might have been a little bit too upright, as many of them felt they would prefer to be in a slightly more downward aggressive position. Gearing comes courtesy of Shimano 105 with an 11 to 32 tooth cassette. Our testers found this provided a great range of gears, and this bike scored really highly for climbing ability. 2 interesting features on this bike are the rear brake, which is mounted below the rear triangle, which frees up the seat stays, allowing them to be thinner and connected directly to the top tube rather than the seat tube, which gives more compliance and therefore a more comfortable ride. Next up, we've got the Intenso D 105 by Italian brand Bianchi. Now this is a bike that surprised our testers. They were expecting a comfortable ride. What they weren't expecting was the slightly racier feel they got from it, although this is still a bike designed around endurance geometry. Part of the reason for this compliant and comfortable feel is the Kevlar that Bianchi have integrated into their forks, which has vibration damping properties. It's also partly due to the very narrow seat stays, which provide plenty of flex, again absorbing all those road lumps and bumps. Overall, our testers found this to be a calm and easy ride. It did have a racier feel when you put the power down. It didn't have quite the urgent, agile feel that some of the other bikes had, and so it wasn't quite enough to put it at the top of our category. The Norco Valence C-Disc 105 is a women-specific bike built around endurance geometry, and as the name suggests, this is a bike with disc brakes. Our testers really appreciated the increased modulation the braking power on the Shimano hydraulic disc brakes gave, but there were a few niggles. The hoods for this type of brake are much chunkier, which means it affects the reach of the bike, so our testers found the reach was too long for a lot of them, and they're also bulkier, so they were harder for people with smaller hands to get a good grip on. The bike is also spec'd with the popular and reliable Shimano 105 group set with an 11 to 28 tooth cassette, which was adequate for climbing as the bike is quite light. In terms of ride feel, our testers really found it quite speedy on the flats, great for climbing, but perhaps a little bit twitchy on the descents. One of the most popular bikes in our test was the Fuji Supreme 2.3, but not quite the most popular. The Supreme is different to a lot of the other bikes in this category, as it's built around a race geometry rather than an endurance geometry, so it has a more aggressive position. Our testers found this bike to be nimble, lively and quick, particularly on the downhills, and this is probably due to 2 main elements of the bike design. The first of these is the RIB technology, which stands for reinforced I-beam, which is essentially a carbon beam that runs the length of the forks, and Fuji claim adds stiffness. The second element is what Fuji elegantly call their energy transfer chainstay, which essentially means the chainstay on the non-drive side is stiffer. This, they claim, increases power transfer while pedalling. Now in practice, you could tell that this was a very stiff bike. It provided great acceleration when you put the power down. Whether this is due to those particular pieces of technology, we can't say, but we did really enjoy riding it. And if you are looking for a racy bike, this is one to seriously consider. Now we can't mention the Supreme without mentioning the paint job. I know it might seem a little superficial, but everyone commented on the pearlescent finish. Whether or not this comes across in the video, I'm not sure, but it's certainly worth a second look. So it might not surprise you to learn that the Specialized Ruby Comp is our category winner. It's also our overall winner. So behind me is the BikeRadar Women's Road Bike of the Year. Now we found this to be a beautiful blend of comfort and speed. It is a sporty bike, but we found that when you put the power down, it really goes for it. And it also represents exceptionally good value for money. Of all the bikes in the top 5, this is the only one that's spec'd with Shimano Ultegra rather than Shimano 105. Even though this is one of the more expensive bikes in this category, our testers all commented on the improved performance Ultegra provided. We were also quite surprised to see a premium Praxis chainsail on this bike and quality fulcrum wheels. So put that all together and you're looking at a bike that really excels when it comes to value for money. Another area where the Ruby excels is comfort. So you have Zertz inserts on the forks and seat stays, which Specialized claim have impact absorbing abilities. You've also possibly spotted the unusual structure that sits on the seat post just below the saddle. This is what Specialized call the cobble gobbler, and this is designed again to absorb those vibrations off the road. Our testers also found the saddle very comfortable and really appreciated the gel inserts on the bar tape. Put that all together and you've got a very smooth, very comfortable ride feel that doesn't compromise on speed when you put the power down. This bike has one of the longest wheelbases in all of the bikes that we've tested in this category, which means that when you get it up to speed, it feels really stable and planted, particularly on descents and when cornering. Our testers all found that the 11 to 32 tooth cassette provided more than enough gearing to get up some quite steep climbs, probably aided by the fact that this is actually a pretty light bike for its size. So it weighs in at 8.23 kilograms on a 54 frame. Of all the bikes we tested, this is the bike that had the best all-round performance. It was the most comfortable bike in the whole test. While it wasn't an out-and-out racer, it more than adequately put the power down and got its speed together when you wanted to go fast. It felt so beautifully secure in the corners on some quite steep and technical descents that you could quite happily let the brakes off and fly down. The spec on this bike is hard to fault, particularly at this price. We can't imagine really wanting to upgrade any element of this, certainly not for some time to come in the future.